on my mind. Money always on my mind. Do it for my mother, always I'm gon' bank the time. Call me always, I can make your family sing a lullaby. I'm certified, keep murder type. My youngest really know the shit. Make a play like man, real life, hit stick that PS5. They behind me. They gon' kill me, y'all. I'm gonna make them kill me, y'all. Today is the day I die. Today is the day I die, y'all. They gonna kill me today, y'all. I'm finna make them kill me. I'm sorry, y'all.
On December 28, 2024, Antavius J. Brown, 36, entered the apartment of his ex-girlfriend, Nadera Tapia, located at Cross Hill Apartments in Columbia, South Carolina. He physically assaulted her in the presence of her 3 children and then shot her in the leg. He transported her to MUSC Health Columbia Medical Center. At the hospital, Tapia informed staff that Brown intended to return home to kill her children. Law enforcement was notified. Brown fled the hospital before deputies arrived. Authorities began tracking him using his mobile phone. A pursuit began when deputies located his vehicle on Leesburg Road. Brown refused commands to stop. During the pursuit, he live-streamed on Facebook and stated, "Today is the day I die."
Today is the day I die. Today is the day I die, y'all.
Brown ran a red light at the intersection of Garner's Ferry Road and Hazelwood Road. His vehicle collided with a Toyota for a runner driven by 52-year-old Ryan Heyman. Heyman and his dog were killed on impact. Brown's vehicle also struck another vehicle at the scene. Inside the vehicle, Brown was found with self-inflicted gunshot wound. He was transported to a local hospital, where he was pronounced dead at 12:30 p.m. Tapia survived the shooting. Her children were not physically harmed during the incident. What warning signs were ignored in the days before the shooting? Could this have been prevented if action had been taken earlier? Why did Brown feel confident enough to live stream a chase while making threats? This is a documented case of Antavius Brown and the events of December 28, 2024. If you're captivated by real crime stories that peel back the layers of truth, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Your support means the world to us as we uncover real cases, raise awareness, and give a voice to the voiceless. Before we dive into today's story, we want to hear from you. Where are you tuning in from? And how do you feel as the story unfolds? Welcome to Deadly Crime Unmasked, the show where we expose the shocking crimes that rip through communities and the chilling secrets lurking behind closed doors. These are real people, real events, real consequences. Don't forget to subscribe and activate notifications. You won't want to miss the gripping story that's coming up. Now, let's dive in.
We are starting tonight with some breaking news. Right now, we know the names of the suspect and the victim who died in a crash on Garner's Ferry Road. This happened Saturday morning. The Richland County Coroner's Office has identified the suspect as 36-year-old Antavius Brown and the victim as 52-year-old Ryan Heyman. We're also learning new details from Columbia Police on what led up to this crash. Our Josie Frost has the details.
We saw a white Charger come flying up Garner's Ferry, and we saw like the back end of his bumper messed up. So we was like, okay, he's definitely in a high-speed chase.
Jessica Anderson saw the moment police say 36-year-old Antavius Brown crashed at this intersection on Garner's Ferry Road. In an incident report, the Columbia Police Department says on Saturday morning, officers were called to Cross Hill Apartments on Blossom Street for reports of a domestic-related shooting. Investigators say Brown and his ex-girlfriend got into an argument before he shot her in the leg. Police say Brown drove the victim to the Medical University of South Carolina for treatment. According to the police report, the victim told nurses Brown made threats to return to the home and hurt himself and the children inside. Police say they tracked Brown's phone to a location on Leesburg Road. After they tried to arrest him, they say Brown led Columbia Police and Richland County Sheriff's deputies on a chase, which Brown live-streamed. The report reveals Brown ran a red light and crashed into 52-year-old Ryan Heyman on Garner's Ferry and Hazelwood Roads. Heyman and his dog died.
And I saw the front end of the truck go up, and I saw the bumper, and that was it. Everybody came running outside. Hurt. And I tried comforting her, and we just put her in their office until we had an officer come and get her.
After the crash, the police found Brown in his car with a gunshot wound to the stomach. He later died from his injuries at the hospital. The woman who was shot is expected to survive. Josie Frost, News 19, WLTX.
Nidera Tapia lived in a modest apartment complex in Columbia, South Carolina, known as the Cross Hill Apartments. The building, like many in the area, was home to working-class families, a mixture of longtime residents and newer tenants. Tapia was the mother of 3 children. Their exact ages are unconfirmed, but based on reports, they range from early elementary to middle school age. These children would play a direct role in a violent encounter that unfolded in front of them. Tapia was previously involved in a romantic relationship with Antavius Brown. Their relationship lasted roughly 2 years. At one point, Brown lived with her in the apartment, although their living arrangement ended before the events of December 28, 2024. Sources confirmed that the relationship had recently ended in the weeks leading up to the shooting. According to reports, there were visible red flags in the relationship. Allegations of controlling behavior and intimidation were known among those close to Tapia. While no public restraining orders were on file at the time of the incident, Tapia had expressed concern about her safety. The full extent of any private legal or police attempts remains unclear, but Tapia did make at least one plea to hospital personnel shortly before the final confrontation, stating, "Don't let him kill my kids." Neighbors and community members recalled the couple as quiet, but occasionally argumentative. Some stated they had heard disputes from the apartment, especially in the final weeks before the incident. There is no confirmed record that Tapia formally contacted law enforcement or sought refuge in shelters, though informal attempts to seek help may have occurred through personal contacts. Her children were home on the day of the shooting. All 3 reportedly witnessed a violent attack against their mother and attempted to intervene. One child broke down a locked door to reach Tapia. Another tried to physically fight off Brown. Their actions played a crucial role in disrupting the violence and ultimately helped their mother survive long enough to receive medical help. Antavius Brown was a 36-year-old male residing in Columbia, South Carolina. He identified as a local artist in the rap scene, often posting content on Facebook and engaging in frequent live streams. His digital footprint was small, but consistent. He maintained an online presence that reflected anger, self-pity, and in the weeks before the incident, hints of suicidal ideation and violent intention. Brown was not widely known in the local music community, though he identified himself as a rapper online. His musical content, when reviewed, showed themes of betrayal, heartbreak, and vengeance. He had no known manager or formal releases. His activity on Facebook included several dark and emotionally unstable posts in the days leading up to the shooting. Screenshots retrieved from his Facebook page in mid-December 2024 showed aggressive wording toward unnamed women, suggestions of betrayal, and indirect threats. These posts became increasingly erratic after the breakup with Tapia. His final Facebook live stream on December 28th, during a police chase, ended with the declaration, "Today is the day I die." Mental deterioration was apparent in the final 2 weeks of his life. Observers noted that Brown's behavior shifted significantly. Friends and online viewers commented on his off demeanor and the cryptic tone of his public statements. There is no publicly confirmed mental health diagnosis, but patterns of impulsivity, paranoia, and suicidal ideation were documented through video content. There are no official records indicating whether Brown sought therapy or was prescribed any medications. However, his live-stream comments and unpredictable behavior suggest a degree of mental instability. Statements made during his final video, such as, "They made me this way," and "I'm gonna make them kill me," raise questions about untreated mental health conditions.
They gonna kill me, y'all. I'm gonna make them kill me, y'all. Today is the day I die. Today is the day I die, y'all.
As of this report, no formal criminal history has been confirmed in the public record. It is unknown whether Brown had prior charges related to domestic violence, assault, or other offenses. However, the violent nature of the incident and the methodical steps he took, driving Tapia to the hospital, threatening further violence, evading law enforcement, indicate prior behavioral tendencies toward control and aggression. Regarding substance use, no toxicology results have been made public. It is unknown whether drugs or alcohol contributed to the behavior. No specific reports from witnesses have pointed to visible intoxication on the day of the shooting. As for Brown's prior relationships, no individuals have publicly come forward to report similar experiences. However, the obsessive nature of his involvement with Tapia and the depth of his reaction to their breakup suggest the possibility of repeated behavioral patterns. Without prior victims on record, this remains speculative but noteworthy. Brown's last act, fleeing from the hospital, broadcasting his suicidal intentions, and ultimately crashing into another vehicle, points to an individual operating under severe emotional and psychological distress. His choice to livestream the final moments of his life, while speaking directly to his followers, added a public layer to what was otherwise a deeply personal spiral into violence. The relationship between Antavius Brown and Nadera Tapia ended in early December 2024. The two had been together for approximately 2 years and were residing at the Cross Hill Apartments in Columbia, South Carolina. After the breakup, Brown did not immediately vacate the apartment. Instead, he remained there temporarily, continuing to interact with Tapia and her 3 children. During this post-breakup period, Brown's behavior reportedly began to change. Witnesses describe a noticeable shift in his demeanor. According to statements from individuals familiar with the situation, Brown grew increasingly accusatory and paranoid. He reportedly believed that Tapia was seeing someone else and became verbally aggressive. There were escalating confrontations inside the apartment, though no physical violence was publicly documented at that stage. Tapia reportedly expressed growing fear to people close to her. She communicated to friends and possibly family members that she was becoming concerned for her safety and for the well-being of her children. Though she had previously tolerated verbal hostility, the tone and intensity of Brown's behavior became more alarming in the weeks leading up to the shooting. In parallel with his real-life behavior, Brown's social media activity reportedly became more erratic. He made cryptic Facebook posts, some of which suggested that he was contemplating violence or was at risk of losing control. While specific quotes from this early period have not all been made public, reports confirm that several of his posts were flagged by followers and acquaintances as worrying or angry in tone. As of mid-December, there is no public record confirming police involvement directly related to domestic incidents between Brown and Tapia. However, Tapia's later statements to hospital staff and investigators suggest she had been afraid for some time. Whether that fear had been formally reported prior to December 28th is unclear. In the days immediately preceding December 28th, Antavius Brown's online presence became more intense and troubling. He posted angry messages on Facebook and possibly other platforms. In at least one of these posts, Brown made comments indicating a confrontation was looming. According to later reports, one of the posts included language similar to, "I'm tired of being disrespected. People gone see today." Another post reportedly hinted at suicidal ideation or violence, though it remained vague enough not to trigger immediate action by authorities or platform moderators. Around the same time, Tapia confided to multiple people that she was afraid of what Brown might do. According to statements later provided to investigators, Tapia felt that the situation inside her apartment was escalating and that Brown might become physically violent. Evidence also indicates that Tapia had shared her concerns with hospital staff or law enforcement in the days leading up to the incident. During a visit to MUSC Health Columbia Medical Center shortly before the shooting, she is reported to have made statements regarding her fear that Brown could hurt her children. This suggests that she was actively seeking help or at least alerting authorities of the potential danger. Despite these warning signs, there was no recorded intervention by law enforcement before the events of December 28th. Brown remained free, and the situation at the Cross Hill Apartments continued to deteriorate. On the morning of December 28th, 2024, Antavius Brown confronted Nadera Tapia inside the apartment they had previously shared. Based on witness accounts and Tapia's own statements, Brown accused her of infidelity and initiated a verbal argument that escalated into a physical altercation. Brown allegedly placed a firearm to Tapia's head and struck her repeatedly. The confrontation occurred in front of her children. During the struggle, the children, alarmed by the violence, attempted to intervene. Reports state that at least one child tried to break down a locked door to reach Tapia. Their attempt to interrupt the altercation were unsuccessful in stopping Brown. As the situation worsened, Tapia attempted to flee. During her attempt to escape, Brown discharged his firearm and shot her in the leg. She collapsed, bleeding heavily, while her children witnessed the entire sequence of events. At this point, Tapia later stated, she believed she was going to die. Rather than leaving the scene or calling for medical assistance, Brown forced Tapia into a vehicle and began driving. His intent, according to later reports, was to bring her to MUSC Health Columbia Medical Center for treatment. This action suggests a chaotic mixture of rage and instability. He had inflicted life-threatening harm, but also chose to deliver her to medical personnel. Brown arrived at the hospital with Tapia in critical condition. While she was being admitted, Tapia communicated urgently with hospital staff. According to those on site, her plea was clear. He's going to go back and kill the kids. Please don't let him kill the kids. Her statement indicates that Brown had made threats not only toward her, but also toward her children. These threats, combined with his violent behavior that morning, suggested a credible risk of further escalation and potential child endangerment. Hospital staff notified law enforcement as Tapia was being treated for her gunshot wound. However, Brown did not remain at the facility. After bringing Tapia in, he fled the hospital grounds before police could arrive or detain him. By the time law enforcement arrived at MUSC, Brown had already vacated the premises. A be-on-the-lookout alert was issued to all local agencies for Brown's vehicle, which was later identified as a white SUV. Deputies began tracking Brown's mobile phone in an attempt to triangulate his location. The Columbia Police Department and the Richland County Sheriff's Department entered coordinated pursuit procedures. Tapia, meanwhile, was stabilized by emergency personnel and placed under police protection. Her children were also secured once the threat was confirmed and Brown's location was determined to be outside the home. Shortly after fleeing the hospital, Antavius Brown began driving erratically throughout various areas in Columbia, South Carolina. During this time, he activated a Facebook live stream, broadcasting himself to his online audience. The live stream became a critical element of the incident, as it provided real-time audio and visual evidence of his state of mind, intentions, and immediate actions. In the live stream, Brown made multiple self-incriminating and fatalistic statements. He declared, "Today is the day I die," a statement that indicated suicidal ideation and foreknowledge of a fatal end. He also stated, "I'm going to make them kill me all," a reference suggesting that he intended to provoke law enforcement into using lethal force against him. These statements added a layer of public danger and urgency to the pursuit. The live stream continued for several minutes and drew the attention of viewers, some of whom contacted police to report what they were seeing in real time. The Richland County Sheriff's Department used mobile triangulation tools to track Brown's phone activity. His location was traced to the Leesburg Road area, a residential and commercial corridor in southeastern Columbia. Upon confirmation of his location, law enforcement initiated visual surveillance of the vehicle. At approximately midday, deputies made contact with Brown's SUV and attempted a traffic stop. Dashcam and bodycam footage revealed that officers used lights and sirens to signal Brown to pull over. Brown initially slowed but did not exit the vehicle. Instead, he rolled up the window, refused commands, and accelerated away at high speed, initiating a pursuit. The suspect led officers through multiple intersections, exceeding speed limits and running traffic signals. During the chase, he continued broadcasting live on Facebook. Authorities monitored the feed while coordinating response units along his projected path. At various moments in the live stream, Brown's speech became more erratic. He made references to his children, the earlier shooting, and law enforcement. He repeatedly asserted that he would not be taken alive and expressed anger at people who he believed had betrayed him. Officers described the suspect's driving as reckless and unpredictable, placing other drivers and pedestrians at risk. The pursuit entered the area near Garner's Ferry Road and Hazelwood Road. At a major intersection, Brown ran a red light at high speed. His vehicle collided with a black Toyota for a runner traveling lawfully through the intersection. The impact was immediate and fatal. The forerunner was driven by 52-year-old Ryan Heyman, an uninvolved civilian. Also in the vehicle was Heyman's dog. Both the driver and the animal died on impact. Emergency responders later confirmed their deaths at the scene. Brown's vehicle, damaged from the collision, continued into another nearby car, causing additional minor injuries to that driver. During or immediately following the crash, Brown sustained a gunshot wound to the head. Forensic teams are investigating whether the wound was self-inflicted or occurred due to a firearm discharge during the crash sequence. Officers removed Brown from the vehicle and attempted life-saving measures. He was transported by ambulance to a nearby hospital. Brown was pronounced dead shortly after 12:30 p.m. on December 28, 2024. Law enforcement secured the crash scene and began evidence collection. Dashcam footage, Facebook livestream video, and witness statements were all gathered for the ongoing investigation. Authorities confirmed that Brown had been armed throughout the pursuit and that the vehicle contained additional ammunition and personal belongings. Investigators also took statements from Tapia hospital staff and other key witnesses to reconstruct the full timeline. The chase lasted approximately 30 minutes from initial contact to the fatal crash. The Facebook livestream was taken down by the platform shortly after the incident concluded, though copies of the video remain archived as evidence. Simultaneously, back at MUSC Health Columbia Medical Center, Nadera Tapia received treatment for her injuries. She had been shot in the leg earlier that morning by Brown during a domestic dispute in her Cross Hill Apartments unit. Tapia's condition was stabilized. Her wounds were described as serious but non-fatal. She remained hospitalized for observation. Authorities later confirmed that Tapia's 3 children, who had witnessed the attack, were not physically harmed during the altercation. They had reportedly intervened during the domestic assault, attempting to shield their mother and break down a locked door. After Brown left with Tapia, the children were located and removed from the apartment by responding officers. Though uninjured, they were taken to a safe facility and evaluated by child services and trauma specialists. Public attention swiftly turned to the death of Ryan Heyman, whose name was released by the Richland County Coroner's Office. Heyman, described by neighbors as quiet and kind, had no involvement in any part of the preceding domestic situation. His family was notified and later issued a public statement requesting privacy. A vigil was held at the crash site in the following days, where residents laid flowers and notes beside a photo of Heyman and his dog. The crash raised immediate questions about the risk posed to the public during high-speed police pursuits. While officers had attempted to stop Brown earlier, they were faced with a rapidly escalating threat. Brown was already suspected of attempted murder and had made explicit suicidal threats. The decision to pursue him was based on a perceived ongoing threat to both his children and the wider public. An internal review was opened by the Richland County Sheriff's Office to examine the timeline of pursuit, the communication between responding units, and the speed at which the suspect was traveling prior to the crash. Officials noted that deputies had not used spike strips or other road-stopping measures before the fatal impact, and instead had followed the vehicle while maintaining a safe distance. Brown's vehicle was impounded for forensic analysis. Investigators searched for ballistic evidence, including whether the gun found in the vehicle had been discharged recently. An autopsy conducted by the county medical examiner was expected to determine the official cause of death. Preliminary findings pointed toward a self-inflicted gunshot wound, although final confirmation was pending toxicology and ballistic results. The deaths of Brown and Heyman brought the total fatalities in the incident to 3, including Heyman's pet. The event triggered renewed conversations around domestic violence, community safety, mental health, and the responsibility of digital platforms in the propagation of violent content. Brown's use of Facebook Live to broadcast his intentions drew particular concern from the public and law enforcement officials. As the case concluded, Columbia residents reflected on the devastating outcome: a woman nearly killed, 3 traumatized children, and an innocent man and his dog dead, all resulting from unchecked domestic violence that spiraled into a public tragedy. Tapia explained that during the ordeal, she believed she was going to die. She recalled the moment Brown pulled the trigger and the fear that consumed her, not only for her own life, but for the safety of her children, who were actively witnessing the violence. She described how the confrontation unfolded inside the apartment and later in the vehicle, when Brown forcibly transported her to the hospital while armed. At MUSC Health Columbia Medical Center, Tapia used the opportunity to alert hospital staff, pleading with them to prevent Brown from returning to her apartment and harming her children. Her request was urgent and specific. "Don't let him kill my kids." This statement was later confirmed by hospital personnel and became central to understanding the risk Brown continued to pose even after the initial shooting. Despite her injuries, Tapia was treated and stabilized. In follow-up statements, she expressed relief that her children were physically unharmed and acknowledged their actions as pivotal in saving her life. She stated that her primary concern remained their long-term safety and emotional recovery. Reports from investigators and family members highlighted the significant role Tapia's children played in the immediate response to the violent incident. During the confrontation inside the apartment, the children, whose exact ages have not been officially released, attempted to intervene directly. At least one child physically confronted Brown in an effort to protect their mother. Another child reportedly broke down a door to access the room where the assault was taking place. According to law enforcement reports, the children's actions created a momentary distraction that allowed Tapia to briefly escape Brown's direct control, though she was ultimately shot as she tried to flee. Their efforts likely prevented further immediate harm, as Brown appeared to hesitate before continuing his assault. Family members later described the children's response as instinctual and courageous, emphasizing that they did not freeze in fear, but acted decisively. Authorities credited the children's bravery with helping to limit the extent of the attack. Although they were not physically injured, officials noted that the psychological impact would be significant. Counseling services were provided to the children in the days following the event. Community organizations, local leaders, and victim advocacy groups commended the children for their actions. Their story became a focal point in the discussion surrounding domestic violence survival, emphasizing that even in life-threatening situations, children can play a critical role in altering outcomes. However, child protection advocates also use the event to call for more robust intervention protocols in homes where domestic tensions are identified early. During Antavius Brown's attempt to evade law enforcement, he drove at high speeds through Columbia, South Carolina. At the intersection of Garner's Ferry and Hazelwood Roads, he ran a red light and struck a Toyota 4Runner being driven by Ryan Heyman, a 52-year-old man who had no connection to the case. Heyman, who was driving with his dog in the vehicle, died on impact. His dog also died as a result of the collision. Brown's vehicle then crashed into another car, further escalating the destruction at the scene. Brown sustained severe injuries during the crash and was later pronounced dead at the hospital. Heyman's death triggered immediate public grief. A vigil was held in his honor by local residents who were angered by the senseless loss of an innocent life. Neighbors described Heyman as a quiet, hard-working individual who was simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. His family released a statement demanding answers from law enforcement, questioning why a known violent individual was not apprehended sooner and why the chase was not handled differently. Heyman's relatives began advocating for policy reviews regarding high-speed pursuits involving suspects already known to be armed and dangerous. They also joined local domestic violence prevention groups in calling for stronger protections and earlier intervention in situations involving credible threats. The case quickly gained widespread media attention both locally and nationally. The most controversial aspect was the Facebook live stream broadcasted by Antavius Brown during his police chase. In the video, Brown could be seen speaking directly to his followers, stating phrases such as, "Today is the day I die and I'm gonna make them kill me, y'all." Viewers watched live as the pursuit unfolded, unaware of the eventual fatal crash that would follow minutes later. This broadcast sparked a nationwide debate on the role of social media in real-time violent incidents. Experts in digital media ethics crisis management, and law enforcement raised concerns over how platforms like Facebook handle live content involving threats, violence, or mental health crises. Questions were raised regarding whether algorithms or human moderators should have flagged or shut down the stream the moment Brown displayed signs of suicidal behavior or intent to harm others. In addition to coverage of the chase, multiple outlets focused on the overlooked warning signs in Brown's social media history. Days prior to the incident, he had posted messages indicating paranoia, threats of violence, and emotional instability. Advocates and legal experts questioned why these posts did not trigger a preventative law enforcement response, particularly given Tapia's prior concerns about her safety. News outlets also highlighted systemic failures in domestic violence prevention. Calls grew louder for the implementation of red flag laws that would allow courts to intervene more quickly in cases where an individual poses an imminent threat. Tapia's own statements at the hospital were framed by media analysts as a final, ignored warning that, if acted upon quickly, might have prevented further harm. The volume and intensity of media coverage intensified pressure on lawmakers, prompting discussions in city council meetings, domestic violence forums,